now for our closing and keynote. Top 10 battle scars and how to avoid them. Please welcome to the stage and give a warm, warm round of applause CEO of Pandora Bots, Lauren Kunze, and the co-founder of Reply.ai, Clara de Soto. Warm round of applause, please.
Awesome. Hey, guys. Thanks so much for having us. We're pumped to be here. I'm Clara de Soto. As he mentioned, I'm the co-founder of Reply.ai, and we're an enterprise-level chatbot building and management platform. We work with brands to, essentially enable them to communicate one-to-one at scale via messaging channels.
And I'm Lauren Kunze. I run Pandora Bots. We are also a chatbot development and hosting platform. We have hundreds of thousands of developers who use our online web service, and we also build bots for major brands. So we wanted to start with a quick question. How many people here in the audience are customers of bot companies or AI? Can you raise show of hands? Customers or prospective customers? Great. And how many people here are vendors? OK, excellent. Well, we're here today to tell you as customers what not to do. And we're going to use some examples.
How to avoid scars just like these ones. Excellent. So diving right in. Obviously, you're going to be covering quite a few things. We don't want to spoil too many surprises. But that first one is really managing unrealistic expectations.
Yeah, so I'll kick us off with a story. It happened earlier this year. This is a multi-billion-dollar international company, so a major company. And they called us up and they said, we really want somebody to build us the Chinese Jarvis. And how much money is that going to take and how much time? And I said, well, that could take 10 years and hundreds of millions of dollars. And can you get more specific about the requirements? And they said, walk me through an end user use case. And they said, the only end user that exists today is Tony Stark. So we really need you to tell us what the requirements are. And we didn't progress with that project, but it's a good example of a company coming in who wants to build general AI or solve everything with AI, which you simply cannot. If you look at these general conversational assistants, we have one that's been shown here at VentureBeat, Mitsuku, that's been under development for 10 years. We have Siri, Alexa, Google Assistant. Those are all the products of hundreds of millions of dollars of investment and thousands of people working on them to get to the stage that they are today, which arguably they're still not fully conversational. So I think the important takeaway for a brand or a business or a developer is you should try to do one thing really well, because if you try to do everything, you will end up doing everything poorly.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the challenges is that, one of the first things I like asking people who are in the bot community is how do they explain chatbots and AI to their parents? It's really fun exercise, and a lot of the times, what gets them to understand what it is Siri, which is the sort of easiest way to sort of immediately grasp kind of what it is that we're talking about. My parents are very intelligent people. Sorry, Mom, if you're watching. But the challenge is that inevitably leads to some sort of very high expectations. So that's sort of rule number one. Moving right along.
Yeah, if people have no real business use case defined. So the business problems are not unique or special. They're your everyday business problems. And you need to make sure that the chatbot or your AI technology is actually solving a real, narrowly defined problem. So we had a consultancy come into us with a new head of AI, and they said, we are going to get machine learning algorithms. It doesn't matter how we get them. We're either going to build them ourselves or we're going to buy them. And we're going to apply them to every layer of our business. And then everything will get 10% better. And I said, OK, 10% is a good goal.
Yeah. You're going to get machine learning.
Yes, you're going to get the machine learning.
Great. Yeah, and absolutely. I think one of my biggest fears with chatbots is that they sort of go the way the QR codes of yore. I do think that I agree with Lauren that I think we're on the precipice of witnessing a resurgence in QR codes. But the concern with them, with why they haven't been super successful to date, is because they sort of got into the hands of the wrong marketers that sort of created these terrible experiences that, like, if you did actually manage to have the right scanner scan that code and get to that end experience, it was terrible. So you're never going to scan another code again. So the real challenge here is that that AI and bots shouldn't be approached as just the next shiny object, but really, again, solving that real business case. An example for us is, we work with this one insurance company in Japan called LifeNet, and one of the things that they realized is that this was more than just about now selling insurance via chatbot, but they really realized that 75% of their customers were in their 20s and 30s, and they make purchasing decisions completely differently than other groups. They like to get highly personalized and customized information. They like to be able to take that into the Batcave, maybe ask their parents for advice, and then when they're ready, come back a now fully qualified lead to make that purchase. And the thing is that with traditional communication methods, that kind of asynchronous and highly personalized communication is just sort of impossible and unscalable. So a chatbot was really sort of the perfect way to kind of service that particular business case.
Yeah, and that's a good segue into the third mistake we see, which is not defining KPIs up front. So that goes hand in hand with understanding if you have a real business case, you need to know, before you approach a vendor, a prospective vendor, what does success mean? And we do spend a lot of time helping our clients figure that out because sometimes you don't know. But again, it's not super fancy. It's, do I have a lift in engagement versus other channels? Do I have a lift in transactions? Do I have a cost savings? So that can really help you think about whether or not you should be investing in these solutions and measure whether or not you've had success. And sometimes success can be very incremental, and a tiny lift based on one change on your site that you use machine learning to personalize something that somebody's seeing, and that helps them convert.
Yeah, absolutely. And just how much that varies based on use case or potentially industry. In our experience, when we launched Kia's the Kia Niro bot, in their case, their golden KPIs were around engagement, and they were thrilled to see an average conversation length of over 3 minutes. One guy in Texas talked to it for 42 minutes, which is bananas. But on the flip side, we're working with a low-cost airline in Europe, and all they want to do is shrink that number. It's not even about the customer experience so much as just shrinking the length of customer support queries and containment rates. So really
yeah, so your KPIs vary based on what your use case is. There's no general rule.
Yeah,
also true.
Here.
We see a lot of people, there's a common trap with vendors advertising, hey, you can build once and deploy everywhere. That's a bit of a false promise. We have people coming in and we'll design something for text and they think that we can immediately port it to voice and it's going to work everywhere. And that is simply not true. Those are two very, very different channels. You also have a strategic question in terms of deciding where to deploy based on where your customers actually are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like Twitter is a great example of this. They've been really sort of bullish on their bot capabilities on the DM platform, and the natural inclination early on was that would be great for customer support use cases. The challenge there is that because it's almost like too much of a liability, if you think about it, to deploy a bot in the actual live stream, you really sort of versus in the DM platform, you're losing a really big sort of promise with customer support bots, which is cost savings because you still need that live person. So in actuality, while initially customer support felt like a great channel or rather the Twitter felt like a great channel for customer support, in actuality it's been really successful more in that marketing capability. We just launched a bot in partnership with Gollin for Patron that was on Twitter, and they're thrilled to be seeing a 40% increase in DM conversations thanks to their bot tender, like a bartender.
Yeah,
that's a bot.
A good one.
Yeah, cool.
So we see a problem early on in the selection of the wrong team or the wrong partners. We're going to talk about internal teams first, and then I'll talk about external
Yeah,
issues?
yep, for sure. So, so one of the main things is that we see a lot of companies who will, who get excited about building potentially on their own internally first. And for us, that generally is like, okay, see you in 6 months, because you learn, very quickly that, like, yes, you might be building a bot, but in actuality, you need sort of everything else that comes with that. And we'll sort of get into that in a moment. But we've, and actually, I'll let you kind of talk about external partners. I'll chime in.
Yeah, definitely. So we both have very close, great relationships, our companies, with top 10 global advertising agencies, which has been awesome. They can provide creative, they can provide introductions to their client base, they can help, with every aspect of the process. But that's the exception, not the rule, unfortunately. So we see a lot of agencies, a lot of consultancies, and a lot of fly-by-night startups. Everybody can do bots now and AI. So it's actually really easy for a customer to make a bad investment in somebody that can stand up something very limited but hasn't been properly vetted. So if you are going to work with an agency, who, by the way, they also call us a lot to figure out our pricing and our models, and then they double that to you. So you could end up paying twice as much as well. So if you do have an agency partner, you want to make sure that they have a platform partner, and we go in with our agencies and we train them how to use our platforms, and that's very important. In terms of Battlescar, wrong team, and what you can put together internally, it's super critical that you have a cross-functional team early on. So you need engineers who can help with the integration into your existing infrastructure and opening up APIs so we can get real-time data into the bot and accomplish things with your existing hardware, software. You need creatives, or people who are authorized to speak in brand voice. So we did a project with a financial services company years and years ago, and we built everything internally for them. And it was an incredibly robust conversational system. This predated the days of buttons, so it was all natural language understanding, free-form conversation. And what ended up happening is that it never went live because it couldn't get through their 10 levels of approvals and legal, because there was no way for them to approve every single phrase. So it's critical to have people inside your company who can be managing how your brand is going to be transacting with consumers on these platforms, and make sure that it's on brand voice.
Yeah, absolutely. We, so in Reply, we have a code-free building interface precisely so that those that know the subject matter the best can really be at the helm of bot creation, to sort of limit every time that you want to make a change, you have to sort of burn developer hours, or go through a whole sort of battery of approvals. But we've been fortunate to have some really excellent agency partners that when they sort of present to their clients, they're very transparent about the fact that they're working with us as well, and that's where we've seen the most success. For instance, RGA is also an investor of ours. They're a phenomenal partner. We're actually just launching a bot for Samsung across 6 different markets to help users onboard onto a Galaxy device from iOS, which is such a great use case as a Galaxy user. But yeah, so it really sort of that's an element not to be overlooked. Yeah, awesome. So this is something that I really feel quite a bit of conviction about. There's a big narrative that sort of emerged in the bot landscape early on was some providers saying that they were the easiest way to build a bot, the quickest way. And I cannot tell you that the biggest learning over this last sort of year and change, year zero of chatbots, is that we must strive for the death of the 5-minute bot, because the reality is that you spend 5 minutes on a bot, it's
you can't build anything quality in 5 minutes. It's just not possible.
Indeed.
And I think it also undercuts the idea, like, this is a very long-term strategy. A lot of the brands that we see coming in don't even have any data. So you have to start collecting that data early, and that data is going to be gathered over a long period of time to train your future AI. So basically, if you spend nothing, you get what you pay for.
Yep.
And that brings us to our next point, which is you also shouldn't spend too much. So I think we also wanted to share some industry standard pricing. Hopefully that's helpful information. If somebody comes in and quotes you 7 figures, that's the point where you should probably be building in-house. Because you can, right? It's a cost-benefit analysis. If somebody quotes you nothing, you're also in trouble, or they're offering their startup, they want to make you a case study, they're going to do it for free. run the other way. Typically, these things take 1 to 3 months to get something up and running, but most of the budget needs to be backloaded onto the post-launch area because you're constantly updating and improving the system. So you want to launch something early after not too much time, and most of the budget should be spent in a monthly ongoing basis because you're constantly gathering data, and then you're using that data to actually train this system to become smarter. And that's where the real AI comes into play, and where there can be value is when you have that data. If you don't have that data, you have nothing.
Think big, but start small.
Yes.
Excellent. Next is having no discovery plan. And discovery here is just a sneaky way of saying marketing. Battle scar number 1 for Thanksgiving. At Reply, everybody's always sort of working on their own sort of side project bot. And for fun, we made this bot called the Literally Anything Else bot. It was a bot that helped you talk about literally anything other than politics at the dinner table for Thanksgiving. And we were so pumped. I spent so much time like coming up with literally hundreds of like quirky conversation starters so that when, your uncle drinks too much and wants to talk politics, the bot tells you to, oh, look at this gif of a cat. But the challenge is that we did no marketing around it whatsoever. And as a result, there's, like 80 users, most of which are my family members. And yeah, so it's just like, even though this is a new medium, a new frontier, traditional marketing efforts absolutely hold true here.
Yeah, it's with big brands too. You spend all this time building this beautiful thing, but if you don't tell anyone about it, how can they know about it? So we see a combination, and this is where the old metaphors still apply, I think, from the app era. You can't release a product without having a plan that's going to back it, allow people to discover that some of it will be organic, some of it will be paid. You want entry points on your sites or your existing materials. You want a landing page. You might want to run ads on whatever channel you're launching on. But you have to be prepared to support it. You can't just put it out there and they will come. And we've seen that, unfortunately, too many people. Again, it's kind of a question of budget and having the wrong team. It all ties back there together. If you come in and you blow all of your money and you don't ever contact your marketing department about this thing that you're building, you put it out there, it's static content, and it will die.
Yeah. Sad. Next is, as Lauren touched on, the importance of having an optimization plan. I don't know if you want to kick us off.
Yeah, I think we've already basically covered this, but most of the work does happen after launch. And I think it's counterintuitive because when you think about automation, you don't think about having a dedicated human resource who's constantly optimizing, analyzing the data, and using it to improve the system. But that's what it takes, and that's how you hit scale. So you are going to have somebody dedicated to constantly tweaking, sifting through data, tagging the data. A lot of people think that, oh, if I have a ton of data from all these different channels, that's great. Machine learning is a silver bullet. I can put it in a blender and spit out a perfectly conversational AI. That's wrong, and I think that misconception is trending down, but data still, there's a lot of work to pre-process it before it can even be effective, and that doesn't get you all of the way there. So I think the mindset you have to bring to it is we are going to have humans in the loop for improving the system, and that's going to get us to scale, but it's a long-term plan.
Yeah, absolutely. Our whole sort of ethos is that you're never just building a bot so much as launching what we call a conversational strategy. And that's something that you're constantly optimizing and improving upon, again, based on the data. Our focus at Reply is pretty heavily in the customer support space. Actually, minor humble brag, we were just ranked by Forrester's top 10 customer support chatbots for enterprises. We're the only startup on there. And this element is so critical. In particular for this airline that we're working with now, we're so pumped about launching their web widget, and then we realized that on the web widget, people engage with it completely differently than we had anticipated from other channels. They're not just saying, hey, what's your baggage claim policy? Instead, they're like, hey, I'm going to go visit my aunt. She has diabetes. I really like cats. I'm hungry. By the way, what's your baggage claim policy? And having to learn that that's how users actually engage on these different channels, and how much, again, that changes based on the medium, and being able to have that room for optimization.
And that's the great thing about conversational channels too, is because your users will tell you what they want, and it's not always what you expected. We see this over and over again. We launched a bot with a retail brand that was designed for brand awareness and engagement and had some customer service, and everybody wanted to shop, which shouldn't have been so surprising, but we were really overwhelmed that that was how they wanted to use the channel. And so that's what went into the roadmap and planning, and that's how we iterated from there. We also have a customer service bot for shipping, and it's a question of fast follow releases with features. So initially you could only track your package. Then we allowed you to update delivery dates and locations. You know, we're 9 months out. We probably release a new feature every month. That bot has millions of users. It's saving the company millions of dollars, and it's been super successful because it's constantly getting better, and people are saying, I want to be able to do this. I want to be able to do this with your service. So we can actually take that data and we can introduce that new feature.
Yeah, and the biggest thing here is also that people will talk to your bot completely differently than you have prepared for, and also in the most colorful and vulgar ways.
Yeah, Clara and I were pleased to announce for the first time that we are making a coffee table book. We're still workshopping the title, but it's something like Shit My Bot Hears from Shitty People on the internet. I don't know, we're taking suggestions. But we've seen a lot of stuff. So this is like on the unexpected user input side. We like to sit our customers down and warn them, like, look, before we let you look at the logs, like there's something you need to know, and it's not just you, but people say terrible things. And that's why we all saw that with Microsoft Tay on the internet. The internet is a terrible place. But the things people send bots selfies, like really not safe for work stuff, and we have some clients who will stream it on the walls, and then they're like, oh no, we took that down because we were seeing all this fly by. I mean, and we were talking about, we have a bra bot for a retailer, and needless to say, that bot has a lot of internet boyfriends, I guess is how we'd put that.
Yeah.
But most of the data that you're getting is super valuable, but you need to know how to cut out that 10% that is.
Totally.
Yeah, that's for our book. So coming soon.
Exactly.
To Amazon near you.
Well, and that's the thing is that, you know, when Westworld came out, I was always really frustrated that that they could have spent the entire first season just sort of dealing with the fact that we live in this world where people pay 40 grand a day to like rape and murder robots. But then I look at my chat logs and I'm like, actually, that's not that big of a leap. So again, you know, the data is unbelievably valuable. You're getting real one-to-one, you know, communication, literally hearing exactly what people want from your brand. But
you're also hearing the internet.
Yeah, indeed.
And you can go to Twitter for that too. Great place. I think we're almost out of time.
Yes.
But the last huge mistake you can make is to do nothing. I think like a great example, we're starting to see messaging-based only companies forming. And a great example is an insurance company called Lemonade, which is all chat-based. Maybe you've heard of it. And so we see a lot of calls from a legacy insurance provider saying, hey, like, how do we get the Lemonade? We want this chat experience. And, you know, it's very slow, especially in fintech, healthcare, anything relating to children, or when you're just dealing with these legacy systems to innovate, which is why it's even more important, the bigger the brand, to start right away before you get left behind.
Yeah, we are officially in the messaging age, and messaging is global. It's the preferred communication for the largest consumer group. It's already installed on phones. It's the, you know, everyone from boomers to Gen Z.
3.6 billion people will have a messaging app installed in the next few years. I think it's 2.6 billion now, so it's about half the world.
Yeah, so you can't afford to do nothing.
Thank you.
Excellent. Cool. That's it. Thanks, guys. Happy hour in the back.